From Journey with VRD, you're listening to the Visions, Missions, and Manifestations podcast, the number one place for spirituality, healing, and transcendence. I'm your host, Vivian Raquel Diane. Now let's get into it. As you all know, on this podcast, I share with you the leaders, healers, and teachers who have changed my life. Today, we have none other than breathwork and identity specialist, Ava Johanna, sharing her journey, her story as to how she became one of the most influential and impactful coaches in the US. So welcome, Ava. Hi.
Hi. Oh my gosh. I love that intro. We didn't send you over any bio or anything. So that was just like full off the cuff from your heart.
Yeah, I like to do that because it's really from the heart. And also, you have already changed my life in so many ways. And as I always tell you, I'm like obsessed with your energy, with what you do, with how you share and how you serve. And so, just so the listener gets a little idea of who you are, do you want to share your title, what you call yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am very much a jack of all trades, multidimensional, I like to say. My company is called the Academy of Breath. It's an online education platform for breathwork and meditation. We really equip lots of teachers, fitness professionals, coaches, therapists with breathwork and meditation as a tool to expand whatever their core offering is, but also to certify breathwork and meditation teachers using our specific modalities. And outside of the Academy of Breath, over the last 7 years, I've also been a business coach and a transformational coach, really specializing in the blend between energetics, mindfulness, spirituality, and strategy. My background was in corporate marketing, and so I came from a very logical, analytical background where I literally knew every strategy across the entire spectrum of strategies. And when I decided to start my business, I really went into it from this energy of like, you know what? I'm doing this for businesses that I have literally no desire to market, whether it was like a car audio shop in San Diego or a dentist. Why don't I just apply what I'm doing with these businesses to my own business and be my own boss? And so I thought that going into it, that strategy was all that was necessary. And over the first couple years, really, of me feeling like I was throwing spaghetti to the wall to see what stuck, I realized that strategy is really like 10%, and the other 90% is mindset, embodiment, energetics, how we lead. So I really specialize in bridging the gap between those two pieces with my clients.
You're very strategy oriented, but you don't just give the same roadmap to each person that you talk to or each client. It's very catered. But what drew me especially to you was how you bring a lot of the energetics, a lot of the energy work into what you do and what you teach. And you do it in such a powerful way, especially the way you articulate it and hand it over to your client. So I love that. So you touched a little bit upon how you got into creating your own business and how you started, but did you always know that marketing and maybe even being your own boss was going to be your thing?
No, absolutely not. I grew up honestly not having a single clue what I was going to do or who I was going to be. I knew that I wanted to, in some form, be in entertainment, but I think that that's just part of growing up in LA, probably similar to growing up in New York with Broadway and the modeling world and just like how big of a mecca it is for fashion. LA is very similar as far as Hollywood and modeling and just the opportunities out there. And so that was, I wouldn't even call it a pipe dream, just something that I caught on to at an early age as far as a desire, but there wasn't really ever a strong why behind it. I think that it's interesting though, because I like to look at the themes of my life and realize that that theme of entertaining, of being able to create a certain experience or elicit a certain emotional response has carried with me into my business. Not that I am an entertainer, but I like to think that I'm entertaining. And, if I'm being honest, when I was in high school, I remember my freshman year of high school, Mr. Smith, my Spanish teacher, which I always think is so funny that Mr. Smith was my Spanish teacher, um, told me that, oh, I guess I just totally put him on blast. I don't care. I don't care. Screw you, Mr. Smith. He told me after I like I didn't send in or hand in one or two different homework assignments that I wasn't smart and that I would never get into a college and I would never be able to get a job. And even though at the time I was like the like emotional kind of like emo teenager that was like, screw you, like I don't care. I didn't realize that my subconscious was holding on to that and that influenced my identity and the decisions that I was making, the habits that I formed, like smoking weed, and the people that I was surrounding myself with, and the fact that I actually didn't even apply for college because I didn't think that I was going to get in. And my family also was incredibly poor and wouldn't have the funds to be able to put me in college anyways. And so when I started my business and went into even marketing, that was really from happenstance. I had answered, this is hilarious, actually. I don't know if I've ever shared this story. I answered a Craigslist ad for this modeling gig, which is so sketchy now that I say that back. And it ended up being totally fine. It was for this company called Jersey Sweaters, and it was these knit, unlicensed NFL jersey sweaters that they had created, this man had created, this really sweet man, Gary, had created in his home with one other person, and they just needed a couple models to come in to model the sweatshirts or model the sweaters. And after I did the modeling gig, they asked me to come tailgate with them at the upcoming Chargers game and wear the sweaters and just walk around and have fun. And so I said yes. And I don't even think I was getting paid because I had such a bad mindset around money, but I said yes for the opportunity. And while I was there, I had all these different ideas of ways to sell the sweaters. And Gary was really the first person that ever saw me beyond just like the model that could, model the sweaters and said, wow, you actually have a lot of incredible marketing ideas. Do you want to come on to the team? And so I kind of just like randomly got pushed into marketing, but fell in love with it. And once I was doing that for a while and moved into different companies outside of that company, I realized that that was the direction that I wanted to go. And it was at that point that I decided, okay, I'm going to go to school and get a degree. I got 3 years into my degree. No, almost ended 4 years, two classes left. I literally have two classes left. My mom still says, I will take those classes for you. And I'm like, it's okay, mom, I don't need you to. But I got to basically the end of getting my degree in marketing communications. And that's when I started my business. And I was like, I don't actually need this anymore because I'm just going to do my own thing.
I
Don't tell my
love
dad
that.
that.
No, I love that. And I think it's also you're a really big role model or an inspiration for people who feel like, oh, I'm never going to amount to anything if I don't go to college, or I'm never going to be able to be successful if I don't go to college. And, your business is extremely successful. I think it generates over $1 million, yearly. And it's just, I mean, to be somebody who started out not even thinking they would amount to anything because of what your Spanish teacher said, to actually running your own business is incredible. I'm curious to know how you got into the spiritual, into manifestation, into mindset work through your journey.
Yeah, again, it's like it's all happenstance. And I think that that's what's so cool about, and like one of the big lessons that I've learned throughout my journey is that in the surrender and in just doing our thing and living our lives, that's when the next breakthrough and the next moment that is guiding us forward will become available versus through forcing and pushing. I was at the time working my corporate job. I was a project manager and I was hustling to climb the corporate ladder. I wanted to be the youngest and fastest promotion into senior account management at the startup that I was working at. And what that meant was me completely sacrificing literally all four domains of a healthy existence: mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And so I would be in before my boss, I would leave after them. I had over 100 clients on my roster that I was personally managing. And I didn't even know that I was stressed out, even though my body was screaming at me saying, you need to pay attention. I had migraines every other week. My hormones were all out of whack. I had horrible gut health and digestion. And my relationships were also in the trash can. And on top of that, I was literally living for the weekends. I remember I would tell myself, like, you know what? I guess being an adult means that Monday through Friday sucks and Saturday and Sunday is all you have to live for. And I fully bought into that. And my girlfriend actually took me to a hot yoga class, and it was so challenging, but so rewarding. I felt so good afterwards that I just wanted to figure out, first and foremost, how I could continue getting off on this high, but also how I could make other people feel as good as I had felt, because I had just never felt at home in my body. I had never felt safe, whether it was the little micro traumas of not being told that I was good enough or smart enough to get into college, or that moment when my family and I were evicted from our house and were living off of food stamps. There was no proof of safety in my life. And so much of my identity was around survival. And the first time that I ever went into a yoga class, I really realized that there was this safety that I could cultivate inside of myself that would lead me to feeling good. And that was really the gateway for me. I think after that, I got into manifestation, into taking a more spiritual approach to life, whether that was Reiki, Kundalini. And then it wasn't until my yoga teacher training about a year later that I found breath work and started really diving into meditation.
One thing that really stands out about you is how well you embody the person that you set your mind to becoming. I really, really love that about you. And it's, because it's one thing to say, like, oh, I'm going to do this, or like, I'm going to be the number one in this marketing position, or I'm going to do this, and then actually embodying the position or the next version of ourselves that we are envisioning or calling in, and in your case literally just claiming. So what allowed you to do that? What steps did you take to really own it? Because you didn't just claim it, you really owned it for yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta be honest, the first few years was a lot like a milk drunk baby trying to walk around. I did not have a process. Like I said, I was throwing spaghetti on the walls trying to see what would stick. I was frustrated because I was seeking everywhere outside of me to figure out how I could become more intuitive, how I could be a channel, how I could heal these money blocks, how I could get success in my business, how I could work with brands. And it was so much seeking outside of myself that I don't recommend to anybody, actually. And that's why I'm so passionate about breathwork and meditation, is that it's not about seeking outside of yourself. That's not the way. It's about the relationship that you cultivate inside of yourself and seeking the answers within you that allow you to see how fucking brilliant you already are and how you already know and have the answers inside of you. And I know that that is so stereotypical in the world of self-help and personal development to say that you already have the answers inside of you. And I know that some people might be like, yeah, I've heard that before. And I get it because I was there too. And why I love breathwork and meditation is that it's not just this esoteric concept or practice that doesn't have any real backing behind it. These are practices that have been heavily researched and heavily studied. And what my mission has really been is in connecting the dots between neuroscience and the nervous system and identity work and these practices and how they all can combine together to be able to support us in our journey of transformation. And so those steps of like really being able to claim your next level and step into your identity, I actually didn't really figure out until like 5 years ago, after several years of me stumbling over myself trying to figure things out, which I think just adds to the journey, right? It adds empathy to those that are struggling as well. But what I would suggest for anybody listening, first and foremost, is to find that clarity. And clarity, I think, can be elusive for some people. A lot of times we feel like we have to have every single step laid out in front of us. A lot of times we feel like we have to have the entire puzzle already put together before we have the confidence to move forward. But what I've found is that we really just have to have a little inkling of a knowing of the direction that we're going, how we want to feel, and what we want our life to look like. And of course, we can use tools like vision boards or, expanders. I know that you're big into expanders and being able to fill your environment with things that expand your mind and what's possible. But for me, at this point, and if I were to go back and tell myself at the very beginning, where do you start? It would be have that goal, have that desire, even if it's loose, even if it's not fully fleshed out, and ask yourself, who am I required to be in order to start creating momentum in this direction? Because once you ask that question, you're going to get some clarity on the type of person or the version of yourself required and responsible for being able to create that life. And so for somebody who is, desiring to see a career change, such as myself back in the day, someone who wants to either start their own business or desires to work at a company that's greater aligned with their values, where they're making more money, they got more freedom. Who are you required to be? Well, you probably got to be more confident and really own your shit, right? Maybe you are the most brilliant person at your company, but you don't see yourself fully. The person that is aligned with that, chief marketing officer position or director of sales or whatever it is that you really see for yourself, or, the head of the magazine, that person, they drink their own Kool-Aid. They know they have something going on. They know that they have a gift to offer. And so what do you need to do in order to feel that way about yourself? Also asking yourself, how does that person move? How does that person act? And so in the simplest of terms, it's really about embodying the person that already has the thing that you desire and being feverishly addicted to showing up as that person every single day until you look around and your reality literally is the thing that was plucked right off of your vision board.
Mic drop. Like that was amazing. So you spoke a little bit about like having money lack mentality or like scarcity, and you realized that you had to, kind of rewire those thoughts and beliefs. And I wonder at what point on your journey you gained the awareness to those blocks, and then how or what shift in your life once you reprogrammed those limiting beliefs around money and abundance.
Hmm, such a good question. Honestly, that's a tough question to answer because I think that there's been so many little micro moments where I'm like, oh, that's a blind spot. I didn't realize that that was happening. I think one of the biggest things that stands out to me right now is that when I first started making decent money, not like, oh my gosh, my life is changing money, but like, oh, I have a little bit of extra money and I'm out of credit card debt and I feel like I can breathe at the end of the month, like, a little bit more than my bills. I realized that I was spending every single last dime of my money. So there was nothing to save. There was no money going into stocks. There was no money that was going into retirement. And I realized that it came from my fear that everything could be taken away from me. And so I wanted to spend the money that I had now because I didn't want to sacrifice living my life and being able to experience the experiences that were available to me because I had the extra $100 or because I had the extra $1,000. And that belief was blocking me ultimately from building wealth. It was blocking me from being able to hold the energy of, I get to experience beautiful things now, and I also get to have a sexy savings account that continues to grow and grow and grow every single month. And so that was just like one little moment that led to a really big breakthrough for me because it forced me to get really organized about my finances and to start learning about savings, learning about investing, learning about crypto, learning about what it would take for me to eventually buy a house, retirement. And I know that those aren't always the sexiest conversations to have, but to me, they're hot. Like that is the energy of the icon. That is the energy of the it girl because I want to be able to build my own wealth. I don't want to rely on a man. I don't want to think that someone else is going to save me. And that was, the story for a really long time because I saw that with my mom. Like I said, we were evicted from our house. That happened after she decided to leave my stepdad. And so that experience showed me as a teenager, oh, a woman on her own can't take care of herself, can't take care of her family. She needs a man. Even though that's the farthest from true, that was what my subconscious took on as a story. And so over my 20s, I really worked to not only combat that, but set myself up by being logical and analytical, but also heart-led in how I was organizing and moving my money.
Wow. Wow. Hey there, it's Vivian, and I'm briefly interrupting this episode because I'm so excited to share that if this episode is lighting you up, then I know that us working together in my new one-on-one packages is going to be the thing that you forever utilize as the resource, power tool, and hands-on experience for your manifestation practice. I'm so excited that I've opened this up and I have like 3 spots right now, and I'm going to link how to sign up and apply in the show notes. You can also send me a DM on Instagram at Journey with VRD because I want to make sure that this is a hell yes fit for you. But the type of people I typically work with are people who are ready to manifest more abundance, love, success, purpose, fulfillment, and overall joy into their lives. Right now, I have space for 3 people in my 3-month packages, and I also have a really fun way for us to work together in person to reach out if this is something that you're interested in. Okay, now back to the episode. So, what's
Does that
one
answer your question?
it 100% answers my question. I think that every listener is probably taking notes right now on everything you're saying because it's transformative. Each one of these pieces and the way that you were able to move through challenges and also realize, like, hey, wait a second, that's not my story. I'm actually living my mother's story, or the story of what it feels like to not be with a man or to rely on a man. And so I wonder what's one rule you felt like you had to break in order to become Ava, to become the icon that you are?
Such good questions. I love this. I've never been asked that before. You know, I think the biggest rule that I have had to break is, and it's surprising because on the outside, you would think, oh, she's so independent. She's got it going on. Like she's good. She doesn't need anybody. And that was a defense mechanism. It was a shield. It was protection against my heart and being hurt. But underneath it all, I really didn't think that I was going to be able to fully take care of myself. I didn't think that I would ever be able to create the life that I desired because I grew up in an affluent area. Even though my family didn't have money, my best friend drove a Range Rover. They had lots of money all around me. So I got to see what a beautiful, like, luxury life looked like and said, I want that. Like, that's what I choose. Put that in my cart. I want that. And so even though I said I want that, I was like, okay, but somebody else has to create that for me. And it really wasn't until I would say about a year into my marriage that I realized, oh, no one's going to come save me. If I want to create this, I need to create this for myself. And it's interesting actually, because, taking a step back from that, the relationship that I'm in now, as you know, my marriage ended. The relationship I'm in now, it's a partnership, right? Like he creates beautiful experiences for me. I create beautiful experiences for him and for our family. And so there's all these different perspectives that we can latch onto and assign as our own throughout our lives. And sometimes those perspectives are there to support us in that specific season. And sometimes we outgrow them. And so it's also been really cool to break that rule of thinking, oh, I need somebody else to do this for me, to being like, no, 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 I'm going to do this on my own, to now being in a season where I get to soften and say, yeah, I get to do it on my own, but I also can do this with a partner who wants to do this with me.
I love that transformation from going from, I have to be independent, do it on my own, to wait a second, somebody gets to do this with me and experience this with me, and it gets to be a partnership. Because I feel like when we've been burned so hard, it could be easy to shut everybody out and really feel like we have to be the ones to, lead the way, do all the work, and, we'll be too independent. And it's nice that you found that balance
Mhm.
of how to give some of that to your partner. So, what would you
Mhm.
say is your superpower? Or I ask everybody on the podcast, like, what's your sixth sense? And how do you feel like it benefits you with your purpose and your vision and your mission?
Mm. I think that the identity piece has always been a secret weapon in my back pocket, but I also say that I'm my client's secret weapon because of the identity work that we do together and bringing in the breath work, the energetic work, the heart work. Yes, the strategy is fun. That's really simple for me. But the things that I get most excited about are how we can blend strategy with heart work and how we can blend strategy and intuition. And to me, having the ability to remove all upper limits of our identity allows for us to be truly like limitless in what we're able to create and who we're able to become. And I just think that that's so much fun in this human life to know that there really aren't any limits. The only limits are our mind and our perspective.
So, what would you say is one of, and I don't want to use the word quickest, but one of your like secret tools or like weapons or whatever you want to call it that you'd give to somebody to embody what they're calling in?
Energizing breath work for sure. It depends
Energizing.
on the person. It depends on the person, but typically energizing breath work. I think going back to your first question around like superpower, it's really easy for me to have a conversation with somebody and be able to identify where they're at on a nervous system level, if they're like in heightened stress or if they're more in like a flight or excuse me, a freeze or fawn response. And so with that being said, there's a secret weapon for everybody, and it really is so bio individual to wherever that person is at. And so having a conversation with somebody within the first 2 minutes of being in conversation with them, I can identify really quickly, okay, what are your blind spots? Where are you putting up walls? And where are your survival strategies kicking in that are actually blocking you from stepping into your next level?
I love that because it's really true. You are the embodiment queen, and you could see it not just in the way that you work with clients, but also in how you present yourself and how much you've been able to accomplish. And I feel like part of that is being able to kind of unravel the different traits of the person and the different beliefs of the person and kind of like untangle it in order to help them rearrange them to create the person that they want to be, which is so cool and such a superpower.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, I
what
mean, you
yeah,
can't do your own brain chemi or you can't do your own brain surgery, right? And so sometimes we don't know what we don't know because we can't see it.
so true. So what would you say is your vision, your mission, what you're calling in the next year? What can people expect from you?
We have been making so many adjustments behind the scenes to the Academy of Breath to make breathwork and meditation even more accessible, even more modern, while still honoring where the practices come from and their origin, so that we can get this into the hands of more people, which has been really, really fun. We have a membership, we have our certification, we have our personal practice course, we have tons of little fun mini courses. And so that's always been a super fun and exciting refinement of that entire company. But on top of that, I'm writing my book, which I'm so excited about, and that book should be coming out within the next year. I actually decided to create an entire program of taking people behind the scenes of the book writing process, and it's been so cool to not only have that to hold me accountable, but to also have people be a part of the book writing process and be asking questions along the way and to be sharing chapters of the book as I am writing them to get feedback and to also just, be vulnerable in that way because writing a book is so vulnerable. And I'm really excited for it to come out because it's been on my heart for a really long time.
I love that. That's amazing. And so can't wait for that to come out. We'll be on the what's the list called? Like the pre-order list. But
Yes.
I do want to know what's something you're manifesting. What's one of your like your big dream manifestations that you're working towards right now?
Mm-hmm. This is going to sound so silly, but I would love, and for anybody that works in reality TV, you already know that this work is so needed, but I would love to be the go-to coach for reality TV stars while they're filming. Specifically, The Bachelor, Love is Blind. Vanderpump Rules, all of these shows where people really do desire to show up in their highest frequency, in like as their highest self, but because of the pressure of being on national TV and knowing that millions of people are looking at you and watching you and judging you, the pressure of competing, sometimes competing for somebody's heart, most people don't actually get to show up in the energy of and in the identity of their next level self. And it's heartbreaking because people are getting death threats, people are getting bullied, like the attacks that happen on all of these reality TV stars that like they're not bad people. Sure, I wouldn't be friends with a lot of them. And yeah, it makes great entertainment, but like the way that the general public just completely attacks these people is just so heartbreaking. And so I really want to support those people in being able to respond to stress and respond to the pressure of being on TV in a way that allows for them to really show up in the highest light.
I can see it. I think you have the personality for it. I think that's so doable. I don't know if you know this actually, but my mother for a very long time was a celebrity stylist, and she'd style the girls
Amazing.
on The Bachelorette and The Bachelor. And
Oh my
so
God.
I feel like there's definitely opportunity there for that kind of work that you're calling in and manifesting. And everybody on this podcast is going to feel so cool. Listening to this podcast is going to feel so cool when they see who's coaching these celebrities on these shows. And they're like, oh, I heard her on the Visions, Missions, and Manifestations podcast when she was just
I
calling
love
this
that.
in.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, again, it's like it doesn't necessarily make for like the most entertaining TV when everyone's nervous systems are regulated, but at the end of the day, like these shows should want their people to show up and like be loved and adored by America or the entire world and not like pulled apart on social media.
I also feel like the people that you'd work with, the celebrities that you'd work with, would end up winning every single time, whatever show or
Oh
competition they
yeah.
were in, because you're so good at like getting people to win, to be successful and abundant and like just embody whatever they're calling in and helping them manifest it. So I could totally see that. I
Oh my God, I would
it's
love it. I would love it. We said it here first, everybody.
so this is a great question then. I wonder, who is your dream client when working in reality TV? Like, who's somebody right now on reality TV that you'd be like, that's my client? Like, I got her. If she called me up tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, big scale would be Khloe Kardashian or any of the Kardashians. Um, Smaller scale, like Bachelor, okay, this is it's interesting because I'm like, I didn't like her on the show, but I feel so bad for her because she just got ripped apart on social media. The most recent season of The Bachelor with Joey, I love Joey. I'm obsessed with him. I want him to leave all the girls on The Bachelor and come run into my arms. And I tell my boyfriend that all the time. I'm like, I love him. But that girl, Sydney, from this season of The Bachelor, I feel so bad for the girl. I mean, she was horrible to watch on TV. I was so frustrated, but I'm also like, I get what it's like to not know how to control yourself, to like be feeding the addiction of drama. And so honestly, I don't think that there's any like smaller scale dream clients. It's more so just like the people that get villainized on reality TV or the like big loud personalities that tend to get a lot of criticism. Those are the people that I know that I could really support.
And what I think is so cool about that is that for a lot of us, when we were younger and we had big personalities, we were always told to like, okay, stop asking so many questions, or okay, it's not your turn anymore, or this like friends would be like, this person's so annoying. She always talks about herself. And I think as a child, the child's not necessarily aware, but what ends up happening is their personality gets shut down. And I think that
Mhm.
wanting to support women who feel like they're so needy, or they're always the villain, or they're always the one being blamed, is such like cool work that we don't hear typically. Usually we want to be on the one that's already winning team. So that's cool.
Mhm.
And so I know
Mhm.
that now a lot of your work is via courses and groups. What is your dream or ideal one-on-one client for now while you're still
Yeah,
seeing
definitely.
them?
I still see one-to-one. A lot of my work now is actually primarily one-to-one because a lot of the past couple of years has been around setting the groups up so that they're set. They're good. The foundation has been set so I can really get back into what my biggest passion is, which is my one-to-one work. And with my one-to-one work, the soulmate client, the dream client, the person that really thrives in this space is someone, such as yourself, who is here to do the work, to lean in and has a really big vision for themselves and sees themselves as not just a business owner, not just an entrepreneur, not just an executive, but somebody who is creating a legacy on this planet and wants to take up the space required to create a legacy. I love money. I love it. I do.
Same.
And also, there's so much more to success and fulfillment and happiness than just the number on your bank statement. And so a lot of my clients really do come to me because they are making money, they're doing the damn thing, but it feels like they're on this constant treadmill and like the treadmill just keeps speeding up and they're just pulling more and more and more responsibility and feeling like they're drowning in it all and feeling like they have to sacrifice who they get to be in their personal life just for the sake of their work life. And so those are usually the people that I love to serve are the ones that like really need the heart work and the soul work and again the identity work to also give themselves permission to be a different type of CEO or a different type of business owner that doesn't have to be so buttoned up or so stuck in the logical and analytical and can really bring more play and passion and excitement and creativity back into their businesses.
I love that. And I think that not every client is the same in terms of being able or like having the passion and the commitment towards implementing the things that you teach. So I wonder who are the clients of yours that end up going the furthest, being the most successful? Is there a
Yeah,
similar
such a great
trait?
question. Totally. Yeah. I think that the biggest thing is like the responsibility and the accountability of like, you know what? I'm here getting my results. And yes, this is a space that I'm going to plug into, but at the end of the day, I'm the one moving. I find that it creates just a really healthy balance between the mentor and mentee relationship where it's not just all on the mentor. And goes for any type of relationships, not just the work that I do with my clients. It's not just all on the mentor and this expectation of, oh, someone else is going to fix me or someone else is going to do the work. But again, showing up in the space and saying, you know what, I'm here to do the work. I'm here to lean in. I'm going to hop on a call and ask the questions I want to ask. And if something doesn't make sense, ask for further clarification. Once I have that clarification, once I have those answers, I don't need to hold back. I can put my foot on the gas and go and run with it. The people that move because they desire to move, not because of outside things saying, okay, here's your green light, or not because a client paid and now they feel comfortable. The people that move because they want to move are the ones that go the farthest. The people that trust themselves are the ones that go the farthest. The people that are willing to take risks, even if it doesn't make logical sense, are the ones that go the farthest. I always say if you want illogical results, you have to be willing to take illogical action. And so for a lot of people, that's stretchy and it feels scary. And I get it. I've been there. I told you my story. The first time that I invested, I didn't know how I was going to be able to pay for the entire coaching container, but I trusted that it would be the thing that would forever change me. And it was not just because I said, this is the thing that's forever going to change me, or not just because I was like, all right, I'm going to pay for this coach, but because I decided to change from that point forward. And so, you really have to be devoted again to that embodiment piece. But when you are devoted to the embodiment piece, when you are showing up, when you are leaning in, when you are letting your walls down and getting even ego out of the equation, this is something that I talk about a lot with my mentor. Her and I will just riff back and forth on this for hours. But there's so much ego in the personal development space and in the coaching space, especially when it's two coaches coming together, like a coach getting coached by a coach. I see so often that people will put walls up and need to be perfect in front of their coaches and they miss the coaching that can actually happen because they're so consumed with having to look a certain way versus admitting, yeah, you know what? I am a coach, but I don't have everything figured out and that's why I'm paying you. And so I think that ego is a huge thing that needs to be dropped in order to be successful. And it doesn't always feel good. but it's necessary.
It's something that I right away realized about you is how like comfortable I was being myself and not having to be the coach while being coached by you. So it's yeah,
Hmm.
I really appreciate you give that energy right away. Like be yourself because I got you while I'm with you. And I'm just really curious, at what point in your journey did you get a coach? Was it when you knew that you wanted to be your own CEO?
I got a coach in 2018. I started my business in 2017, so a year in, and she wasn't a business coach per se. She actually wasn't a coach at all. I loved her because of what she had created. I like it was true mentorship, right? Before like we even bring like the coaching industry into the equation, I saw somebody that was doing everything that I wanted to do. I walked up to her at the end of her yoga class at a festival on Oahu, and I said, "I don't know if you do this, but would you be open to mentoring me?" And she was like, "I don't do this, but yeah, let's have a conversation." And it's really cool because that stretched her into becoming a coach and supporting other women just like myself. But yeah, it was about a year into starting my business. I've always just seen the value of being able to surround yourself with people who are further along than you. It's been that way since the beginning of time. Get around people that already are doing the things that you want.
What is your astrology trio? What is your astrological trio?
Oh, girl, you're gonna
Did
love
you know
this.
that?
I am a Scorpio sun, Leo moon, Aries rising.
Okay, so I knew this whole call. I'm like, this woman has to be a Scorpio. I wish I said, let me guess before you answered, because
Yeah,
I
you
know
should have.
you you have the Scorpio in you so well. I feel like Scorpios are just so good at getting what they want. Every Scorpio I know is just so good at manifesting. And then I'm a Scorpio rising and I'm a Leo moon. I mean, I'm a Leo sun
Oh my
and a
God.
Scorpio rising. So that's funny. And then
Amazing.
yes, and I wanted to see if you were connected to any of your spirit guides, and if so, how do you connect with them?
Yes, I love this. I'm so glad that you brought this in. So for me, there's not any specific spirit guides that I work with consistently. It really depends on what I need, what I need and what I want. And so, I work with my angels more than anything else. I work with God, and I feel most closely connected to the energy and archetype of God. I didn't grow up religious, so I know that a lot of people have religious trauma. I'm very grateful that I don't. I also don't look at God as being under one denomination. And so it really has been my own relationship that I've built over time with an energy that started as the universe. And then as I continued to get into my work and get into my own personal practice as I was growing and evolving, I realized that I really resonated with the energy of and connecting to my version of God. Um, but outside of that, with the angels, I have fun with it. It's been so much fun. Like anytime that I am in meditation, this is a great manifestation, actually practice. I will call upon my angels, and this is something I've worked with my mentor on. And I'll call upon my angels, and anytime that I start to notice myself getting into, okay, well, how's it going to happen? What do I got to do? How's it going to happen? I hire my angel Howie, the angel that answers the how.
Howie, I love that.
So Howie, my angel, comes in and I just say, you know what, Howie, I don't need to worry about the how. I know that you got that. I know that that's your job. So can you just figure out the how for me? So I work with different angels that when I have different needs, I have my travel angels, I've got my Howie angel, I've got my money angel, I've got my debt angel, all the different angels, depending on what it is that I'm working on, I will connect to via my breathwork and meditation practice, or if I'm journaling.
And so would you say that you do some sort of meditation? Because I consider journaling a form of meditation. Would you say that you do some form of meditation daily?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
obviously. So so that's really great. And I heard a quote recently that said, if the founder of Starbucks went for coffee with every single person who wanted to go for coffee with him, there would be no Starbucks. And so I wonder if you're choosy about the people that you spend your free time with And if so, what's a quality you look for in the people that you surround yourself with, and not including clients? So just like
Mm,
friends, family, is there a certain thing that you're like, okay, yes, versus, and what's the thing that you will not tolerate?
girl, your questions. I love this so much. Can we just take a moment? Like, we have a top podcast in the making right now. This is
I'm
incredible.
crying.
Absolutely. I am so picky about the people that I allow into my personal atmosphere and that I spend my time with. The most important thing for me, honestly, because I don't need every single relationship to be some deep relationship. I used to think that that's what I needed. Like every conversation had to be deep and about the universe and about where we come from and where we're going. And I realized that that is not the case. I don't need that. Those conversations light me up and are very fulfilling. But what I've come to notice is that more important than anything else is when I leave spending time with you, if I feel energized, you get to stay in my life and you get to spend time with me. If I feel exhausted, depleted, if I'm tired leaving a conversation with you or spending time with you, I'm going to distance myself, not because there's anything inherently wrong about you or inherently wrong about what you are involved in or what you do or the conversation you have, but I just know energy is everything. And if I'm walking away feeling like energy was sucked from me, then I know that that's going to influence how I feel the rest of the day, how I feel the rest of the week. And I'm a projector in human design. So I think that's also a really big piece of it is that like I'm always taking in other people's energy and it does impact me. But that's really the number one determinator for me on if I'm going to spend time with somebody or not, because I can shoot the shit and have silly conversations all day. I have my friends where we have mostly deep conversations. I like all of it. I want all of it. I don't want to always be in like the deep, dark Scorpio waters having these crazy conversations. That itself would be exhausting for me. But I do want people to feel, or I do want to feel filled up from the people that I'm surrounding myself with. And so yeah, I think that answers both of your questions. If there's people that like I feel exhausted around, not spending my time with them, or at least limiting it.
100%. And that makes sense. Like you want the people who are going to support you and celebrate you in your life and not the people that are going to take energy out. I just wonder, how you're able to navigate whether somebody is draining your energy versus you taking the blame for that, being like, oh, maybe it's a me thing. How do you recognize when somebody is just really being an energy vampire versus hitting a trigger point and maybe it's you? Not that it is you, but
Mm.
it's a good question for people who are
Yeah.
often like, maybe it's me. Maybe I need to bring this to my coach or to my therapist. But sometimes,
Hmm.
no, maybe it is the other person.
Yeah, yeah, it's such a great question. And, it takes practice, of course. There's times where I definitely have people pleasing tendencies. And so there's times where I'll walk away from a conversation and be like, oh my God, like, what do I do to make that person feel better? And I'll bring it to my coach and they're like, girl, you're fine. Like, you didn't do anything wrong. Like, that's them. That's their trauma that they're bringing in or their projections that they're bringing in. And so I do think it's still valuable to be able to break things down with a coach or a mentor or a friend or your partner to be able to, as you are strengthening in your discernment and in your intuition, be able to kind of like clear the picture for yourself until you feel really rock solid. But for me, honestly, I think we just know. And I know that that's the annoying answer, but I know like if I walk away from spending time with somebody and they're, an hour and a half late to hanging out, they're not present or they're, you know, complaining the entire time and they're embodying qualities that I don't want to embody or things that I know are not energy giving and energy fueling. I know that, oh, it's not just me being annoyed that this person was late, or not me just being annoyed that, they were on their phone when we were spending time together. And so I think for anybody who is listening, if they're walking away from spending time with somebody, maybe it's a date, maybe it's with friends, maybe it's with family members, and you're like, gosh, I just feel so tired and I feel so drained, pause. Take a moment and pause and ask yourself, what about that was draining? Okay, is that a reflection of me? Or is that actually showing me what I don't want in my relationships?
I'm so happy you made this clarification because as somebody who works with identity and embodiment, I find it so important for people who are manifesting the next level of themselves to spend time with the people that they want to in some ways emulate. So I feel like just taking that time after hanging out with somebody and just checking in with yourself allows you to navigate even further and more deeply who they're becoming by who they're surrounding themselves with, whether it's somebody who's draining you or supporting you.
Yeah. And the reality is the further you go, the more devoted you are, it does get a little bit lonelier because not as many people in the world are going to hold themselves to the standard that you hold for yourself. And that's why coaching exists, right? That's why mentorship exists. That's why masterminds exist and group experiences and communities of like-minded people coming together that share an intention or a frequency exist because we need that. It's not that you can't hold the embodiment of who you're desiring to become when you're around people that are energy draining. It's that it's a whole lot harder to do it. And I'm all about ease. I'm all about ensuring that I'm on the path of least resistance and not like fighting tooth and nail every step of the way, trying to hold my frequency. The reality is, we are going to be around people that are energy draining. We are. At some point in our life, we're going to be around them. It could be the family barbecue. It could be, a mutual friend that came out to dinner. We're going to be around those people. And so get really good at being able to hold your frequency, but then also spend the majority of your time not being around those people. Don't put yourself in those situations. You can say no.
To end this conversation off, because it's been so good and full of so much, how can people connect with you, get to know more about you, or even just learn how they can work with you one-on-one if you
Yeah. So my Instagram is at Ava Johanna. We also have an Instagram for the Academy of Breath that's at Academy of Breath. And that's really where all of the meditation and breathwork resources exist. I talk about it from time to time on my personal page, but for the most part on my personal page, I'm speaking directly to the executives, to the CEOs, to the business owners. And so if you are interested in working with me from more of a coaching and mentorship perspective, I do have one-to-one space. I also have a mastermind called Behind the Woman that's coming out in April. And both of those spaces, you're more than welcome to send me a DM to see if it's a good fit. And for upcoming programs, we have our Academy of Breath certification that we run twice a year. Like I said, we've got tons of different practices, techniques, and programs on the Academy of Breath website. So you can go to academyofbreath.org. And then my website is avajohanna.com.
And I also want to shout out your iconic wink wink podcast that you have, which is called
Yes.
Icons, and it's amazing. So people could get to hear more of you on there too.
Yeah. And it's really fun because every other week we do a live show. So you can join the show, be able to ask questions live. We have amazing guests come on the podcast, and then we post all of them on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and YouTube.
Hey, if you like this podcast episode, please download it, give us a nice review, and follow us on Instagram at Journey with VRD to get all the latest and the greatest updates. Till next week.